Hey friends, today we're going to check out the harmonic minor scale. Let's go. Okay, so the harmonic minor scale is its own scale. It's not a mode like we've talked about before. It's not a subset of another scale. It's its own, what I call parent scale. That means it has its own chords, it has its own modes, it has its own triads, all that stuff, right? So what is it exactly? Well, basically, if you look at an A minor scale and you look at the chords that are in A minor, just a typical 1-4-5 kind of blues progression would be A minor to D minor to E minor. Now those are the chords that naturally occur from a minor scale, in this case A minor. Somewhere along time, throughout the accolades of time, us humans are pretty clever. They figured out, well, what actually might sound a little bit better is if we make the E minor chord an E7 chord. So here's E minor, but if we make it E7, it kind of pulls your ear back to the A minor chord. And that's that kind of 5 dominant chord back to 1 chords. Kind of a really staple of jazz, but also all kinds of music too. So what do you play then? Okay, so you go, I've got maybe a little A minor blues or something like that. When I get to that E7 chord, and if I just play A minor, now you could just play A minor, it'll still work, but you're going to miss an opportunity here to outline this chord a little bit more. So some people would say, well, why wouldn't you just play, let's say, E mixolydian, right? E mixolydian is the mode that we would play over a dominant chord, and this is an E7 chord. Well, E mixolydian is really the 5th mode of A major, and we're playing in the key of A minor. So the solution is to just change our minor scale just a little bit and help it outline that dominant 5 chord. So what we're doing is we're going to raise the flat 7 note of the A minor scale up a half step to a major 7, and that major 7 becomes the major 3rd of the 5 chord. So for example, in the key of A minor here, if I take my A minor scale and I raise the G up to G sharp, that's the flat 7 to the natural 7, it kind of works over that dominant chord a little bit more. So that's kind of where the harmonic minor scale came into play. It's been around for a very long time. So what we can do is just study it a little bit and find different clever ways to use it, because it is a really fun scale and it has a really cool sound to it. Okay, so the construction of it is just like what I mentioned. It's just a minor scale, so you got the root tone, a major 2nd, a minor 3rd, perfect 4th, perfect 5th, a flat 6, and then a major 7th, or a natural 7th, some people might call it, and then we're back to our root tone. Okay, so what that does is it renders some chords too, right? So first thing I always like to do anytime I'm kind of studying or investigating a new scale is to look at the harmony of the scale, because that will give me a lot of insight on where and when I can use it. So if we harmonize the scale, we get a series of chords. We'll start with triads first. So the first triad would just simply be A, C, and E, which is just an A minor triad. So that sounds pretty stable, pretty normal sounding. Our second note of the scale, which is B, if we harmonize a triad from that note, staying in that A harmonic minor sound, we get a B diminished. So far, as far as triads go, we haven't gone outside just the A minor scale. So here's where things change. So if I was in A minor, the next chord would be C major, but we're in A harmonic minor, so that means that G note's going to go up a half step, and that gives me an augmented triad. So C augmented. So far we've got A minor, then B diminished, then C augmented, then D minor. D minor parallels our just natural minor scale. And then we have a major 5 chord here, E major. That's different because normally that would be E minor, but because we raise that G to G sharp, it gives us an E major chord, and then if we move up a half step, that gives us our 6th chord, or our flat 6 chord, F major. And then the 7th chord is another diminished triad. So just by going up that scale, A minor, B diminished, C augmented, D minor, E major, F major, G sharp diminished, and then back to A minor again, you can kind of really hear the quality of that harmonic minor sound, especially on some of those triads that include that G sharp note. If we go one step further, we can harmonize this to 7th chords. This is where things get a little bit interesting. So as a triad, the 1 chord, A, will give you an A minor triad, but if we add the 7th, that major 7th note will give us a minor major 7th chord. Okay, so that's pretty easy to play, really. You know, you've kind of got your typical A minor chord here. And if I just add that major 7th there, okay, and you've heard this before. It's really funny because I had a student in one of my classes one time years ago asked me, but I said, that's a really strange sounding chord. Where would I ever use that? And I said, oh, I don't know, maybe in the most popular rock song ever written. Okay, so it's a little different, but that's kind of basically what's going on in Stairway to Heaven. The 2nd chord is an A minor major 9. It just adds the 9 on top to get that counter motion, but essentially it's a minor major 7 chord. So you hear it in classical music, you hear it in you know, Spanish style music, a little bit in jazz, rock. It's been around. Okay, so that's our 1 chord in A harmonic minor, would just be A minor major 7. Our 2 chord is just a B minor 7 flat 5, just like our A natural minor scale. Our next chord is a C major 7, but remember we have to raise that G to G sharp, and that's the 5th, so that would be a C major 7 sharp 5. It's a really interesting sounding chord. All right, then the next chord is just straight up D minor, or D minor 7, I should say. The next chord would be E dominant 7. The next chord would be F major 7. And then we would have a G sharp diminished, fully diminished chord. And then we're back to that A minor major 7 chord. So one more time, we got minor major 7, 2 chord minor 7 flat 5, 3 chord is a major 7 sharp 5, 4 chord is just a straight up minor 7, 5 chord is dominant 7, the flat 6 chord would be F major 7, and then the 7 chord is G sharp diminished. And of course, if you're in a different key, you just adjust for the different notes, but the quality of the chords stay the same. So one clever way to use this is just use this in a place where you would just use a natural minor scale, you know, so you can blend it in with maybe some of your minor scale or even some minor pentatonics, minor blues, and it just kind of gives you an exotic minor sound, which is really cool. So you just kind of play it from the root. So I have a backing track that is just kind of a static A minor sound that you can just practice A minor until you're blue in the face over. There's no chord changes, and it's just a really good way to hear the different qualities of different modes and scales just against that kind of steady A minor sound. So I'm going to just play a little bit. I'll blend a little bit of just some A minor pentatonics, and then every now and then I'll throw in that A harmonic minor, and you should hopefully be able to hear it kind of stick out a little bit. All right, let's give it a go. Okay, so you can see you can just use it like from the root. You can just use it as a replacement for your just A natural minor, and it just has a cool quality, adds a little bit of interest to your lines. Now, like I mentioned before, it has modes to it too, but we'll talk about that and break those down in separate lessons. So for now, I would just say just try jamming over this static A minor groove here, and just kind of ping pong back and forth between an A minor scale, A minor blues, A minor pentatonic, and add in some of that harmonic minor, and it will give you a really interesting sound, and it kind of makes the listener's ear perk up just a little bit. You know, it's kind of like, because everybody's pretty familiar with that kind of just minor sound that we've been using for years, and then when you just add that note in there, it's really cool sound. It just kind of pokes out a little bit. Now, one of the things I really like to do, you can play the scale obviously in many different ways. You can play it in a linear fashion, but you could also use some of the arpeggios of that scale. So I'll give you one of the arpeggio shapes, and I'm going to break these down in other lessons, but just so you can kind of get right to it, just by watching this video, I'll show you the A minor major 7 arpeggio, and I was using that just a little bit there in my improv. Okay, so we have an A minor 7 arpeggio here up on the 12th fret. And that's just coming from that A-shaped chord. You could call it pattern 2 if you're using the Cage system. Now all you have to do is go through and find all the flat 7s, which is G in this case, and raise it up a half step. So I'll show you how I play that. I strategically finger it a certain way. So I might start with my first finger, and then I'll go with my third finger. Now if I'm playing lower on the guitar, I might use my pinky, but in a lot of cases I'll just use my third finger. And then my second finger on the 5th here. So I've got, and then you bring your first finger down for that major 7 note, so you get this shape right here, which is actually that C augmented triad. Okay, then right here, even though it's a half step, I use my third finger because I'm kind of setting myself up for the top octave there. So the next octave goes something like this. You start with A, C, E, and then a little bit of a stretch there for that major 7 note. You could add the major 7 here below the root 2, and it really kind of tugs your ear back to that root tone. So here's that minor major 7 again. Okay, so here's that minor major 7 again. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll go up the minor 7 and come down that major 7, just to create some interest in my lines. So pretty cool stuff, and like I said, we're just at the tip of the iceberg here. We can really explore this, explore its modes, explore its triads and its 7th chords. But this is just a brief introduction as to what the harmonic minor scale is. It's basically a minor scale with a major 7, okay? Or, you know, with the flat 7 raised to a major 7, okay? It's not in addition to, it's in place of, okay? So you can go through your scale patterns. I would just recommend take a look at the scale patterns and learn those fingerings and do some improvising just over this static kind of A minor sound, and you can actually see how it sounds against just a basic A minor type sound. It's really cool. All right, check it out. Always like, share, and subscribe. Check out my Patreon page, and I will see you next time. Cheers.